Today on CityCast Denver, Cherry Creek Week continues. Presented by Transportation Solutions, we're spending a whole week digging into the thorny issues of growth and density facing one of Denver's wealthiest neighborhoods. But there's a lot more to Cherry Creek than the ritzy reputation. I worked in the Cherry Creek Mall for 17 years, and I saw that firsthand. It really frustrates me when people make assumptions about the neighborhood that don't include the thousands of diverse workers that make Cherry Creek work. So as we consider the tidal wave of development reshaping the neighborhood and all the changing transit needs, let's consider the worker. In this case, my friend, David Casados. Today is Wednesday, April 19th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. We're sitting in my secret parking spot in the west or east deck at Cherry Creek Shopping Center. I won't tell you which deck because I don't want anyone to know where my secret parking spot is. I wanted to talk to you because you're one of my oldest friends, and our relationship started at what we call the Cherry Creek Mall. We met at the Gap, which I used to call Shirt Folding Store, but
it was 2007.
2007. So I started there in 06. We met in 07. This is not the beginning of your retail journey, though.
No.
You had much humbler beginnings.
I did. I was working as a cashier at a Kmart in Pueblo, Colorado through high school, but it was only like 3 days a week because I was very involved, but I needed cash. I wanted something, and our neighbor, Mary Lou, who lived across the street, was their accountant.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I love that you started at Kmart.
Same.
I started at KB Toys in 1995 in this mall.
Nice.
But we met at the Gap. Where were you in your life? What did that job mean for you?
That's a interesting question because I thought about it a lot on my way up here. It was a very different time for me. I was just venturing out of Pueblo, of southern Colorado, Colorado Springs, and now Denver as a student. I was excited to be enrolled in CU Denver after starting at UCCS. And I knew that I wanted to work while I was a student, but also I wanted to work retail because it was just flexible. It had worked with me for this long. And there were two choices for me that I felt really fit aesthetically.
For jobs?
Uh-huh.
Oh, my God. I don't even know what the other one was other than the Gap.
Eddie Bauer. I know.
Ooh.
Yeah. I really wanted to be that guy.
Two paths.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, my God. I'm so glad you chose the Gap.
I felt like the Gap chose me because I was way too intimidated by Eddie Bauer's interview process, whereas like the Gap was so conversational and I got to meet really cool people. Everyone seemed like they were really happy.
Yeah.
For me, it was super fancy. I did not think that I was fancy enough to work at Cherry Creek, but the Gap of all places was
Isn't that funny?
Next level. Yeah.
Now,
really.
Yeah. You walk in, you're like, it's not that fancy. I mean, it's fancy, but it's like it had a different air about it.
It's clean.
It's always. I got hired at the Gap because our boss Jill was my homie from class. We used to like fall asleep next to like in our desks at Metro. I don't even remember what class we were in, but the interview process was super easy. I also I worked in retail in this mall for a long time before that. I had been working here since 1995, but I think it's like surprisingly diverse in the workforce that people don't maybe realize.
It's an interesting microcosm of Denver. There are a lot of first generation people here, but like also natives that work in here. A really global presence consistently. I don't know why that is. I always, it evades me, but yeah, it's a really interesting, diverse little community.
And we were here pre-recession.
Yeah.
I want to think about like our coworkers, because what I always found interesting was like you were in school. I had just graduated after 8 long years of getting my bachelor's degree. But like I remember our boss Cheryl Lee had like a master's in like fine art or something, and then like all the morning moms worked shipment so that they could be home in the afternoon for their kids. We had retired teachers. A lot of folks where retail was a profession, and I feel like that's sort of not thought of today in the same way. But like, what do you think about retail as a profession?
I loved retail as a profession. I
Same.
don't know that there was any greater teacher for me on life skills than working retail. You learned how to tell a story. You also learned conversational skills, what it was to be of service without being working in food service. I loved it, but it can be limiting, or just like super accelerating.
Yeah.
It really did well for me. I just don't know why I always thought that a typical 9 to 5 would be better, but that other side, the grass being greener. I will say this though. I am so grateful to have natural sunlight. Like if there's one thing I wish that
we did work in a box for a long time.
Inside of a cement closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the not being able to get outside.
Or see outside.
Never being able to celebrate any holiday with your family.
Yeah.
People yelling at you, especially during like Black Friday or returns, big returns times.
Or seeking help that you are not qualified to
yes,
give. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I am helping you find the right size jeans. I am not your therapist. I will not babysit your children.
Nope.
And I don't want to be responsible for your handbag, so please don't leave it at the counter.
Yeah,
with me.
nor am I a waiter.
Yes. I'm not at your service. So you left the Gap and you went all the way down to the other side of the mall to Nordstrom, which is much fancier, let's be honest. What was your clientele like there?
Wonderful. They changed my life. I mean, that's where I really fell in love with retail. For those who are familiar, Nordstrom does a really good job of promoting from within, and they do a great job of keeping it simple. So when I went over there, I was really afraid. I didn't own a suit. I thought you had to wear a suit if you worked there. My only experience with Nordstrom was at Park Meadows, where there's a piano player, or there was
and a live piano player in the store. Yes.
Yeah. So that was interesting, but I picked a department where I could wear casual clothes or sell a little bit more like denim. Younger.
Not the suits, not the...
Yeah, but this was all pre-2008. I started there...
True.
Right at the beginning. We opened the store in October of 2007.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize the timing of that.
Yeah, it came down hard and fast. And I mean, right before that, people would wear the stuff that was just disgusting by today's standards, like dripping with...
Very expensive,
but like a lot of bedazzled stuff, like True Religions that you couldn't have leather seats. They would scratch your seats. They had so much like stuff.
Yeah.
Or just the butts on certain men's jeans it was really hysterical. It was a hard time.
The Von Dutch years.
Yes, yeah. So thank God the market did its thing.
This episode is brought to you by Transportation Solutions. Transportation Solutions is a nonprofit working in partnership with the Denver Regional Council of Governments to encourage sustainable transportation. You may also know the organization as a sponsor of the well-loved and very well-attended Bike to Work Day events. They are on a mission to increase the availability and use of transportation choices like biking, walking, riding the bus, or sharing a car, while improving traffic conditions, air quality, overall health, and economic vitality for businesses and residents in the Denver area. Through their work, Transportation Solutions advocates for better mobility for the Denver of today and beyond. Find out more at transportationsolutions.org. So pulling back a little bit, we're talking about Cherry Creek as this entity. So there's this big development that's going in next to the mall. You and I always drove.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think about taking, like, because you lived in Virginia Village with me and my mom. Did you ever think about taking the bus?
Yeah, I did. When I first moved here, I did not have a car. I actually took the 10. And I did use
from Capitol Hill
to the university. And then, I forget whatever one takes you to Cherry Creek from Capitol Hill, anyway,
the one or something
like that. It's the DU train,
yeah,
or bus rather. And I walked when I was in West Wash Park.
That's true.
That was
to West Wash Park.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe it was a generational thing, a moment in time. Like, I don't know that I had the wherewithal to navigate public transportation in my own schedule at the time, so I felt like I needed to drive.
Did you ever think about the fact that we as retail workers couldn't really ever, I mean, maybe at some level, most of us that worked in this mall couldn't afford to live anywhere near it. Did that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, the disparity for me was pretty remarkable. Just given my own experience, we went from working hourly to commission, and then that commission being really, it can really vary. There were a lot of people that couldn't be in the near vicinity. Some of the people that I worked with lived in like Evergreen
Yeah.
or really far out. We lucked out. I mean, I got to live with you, and that was right down the street. And I've always had this weird luck of having an adjacency to it, but no, I don't know how people are doing it today.
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot, or at least been, because things are so much more expensive. It's not just that folks are living even farther and farther. It's like, it's always been that way. But at the same time, I don't know. I honestly never thought about it until we started working on this project.
Oh.
I never thought about not driving.
Ah.
And, you know, it would be different maybe today because of the paid parking situation. But maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. So the thing that I get frustrated with around this conversation about Cherry Creek is that it's like people say it's only for rich people. And one of my arguments is, well, there's a lot of us here that are working. You know, it takes thousands of people to make it work. What would you say to someone who writes Cherry Creek off as a neighborhood for rich people?
I think it goes out of its way to be accessible. And I understand the perception. I mean, when I first moved up here, from Pueblo to Kmart to Gap, it really felt that way. But I think that's just more a symptom of its cosmopolitan position. People get dressed to come here. That shouldn't be held against it. And I don't think it's. I think there's a lot. Like as I was walking to our spot, there's that playground for kids. It's always hopping. Forever 21 was packed. Like the mall is very, I think, equitable in terms of its offering for clothing. Sure, you can spend like $3,000 on shoes, but you can also walk out of there with a $3 t-shirt.
Yeah.
And again, really even if you're just like wanting to walk around Cherry Creek, it is a lot of food and drink. But I love just walking around. I think they've gone out of their way to make it cute. Parking is tricky, but that's always been the case.
Yeah, that's not anything new.
No.
I think that's the funny part too, as we talk about more development in Cherry Creek. Like in Cherry Creek North, the complaint is parking, and it's like, it's always been a problem. We've always known that. So it should be noted, for a mall of this stature, it was built in 1990. It has continued to renovate like every 5 years.
Yeah.
The finishes on the inside, it never looks dated. Like they really figured that out. They've also added on where Nordstrom didn't exist when the mall was first built. So there's this part that's actually happening now where the it was where Bed Bath & Beyond was to the west of the mall.
Yeah.
They're going to develop that whole thing.
Into what?
I think it's going to be mixed use, like housing. And then obviously there'll be probably retail and restaurants on the bottom. What do you think about that?
I welcome it. I hope this whole neighborhood continues to evolve. I think, it's done a good job so far. I always wonder, even when I'm in Cherry Creek North, who lives here, because it can seem vacant of people that actually live there until you get to know them and you're like, oh wait, people really do live over here. So I'd be interested to see what kind of population it draws, because the surrounding community is very
it's pretty rich.
It's pretty rich, and they're a lot older.
Yes. Yes. And there are actually a lot of folks that probably don't work in the mall.
Yeah, no.
But this development could be that place where some folks that work in the mall also live.
Yeah.
Do you think about, if I want to hang out in Denver in like a busy area where there's people, I would go to Cherry Creek before I would go downtown.
Oh, that's interesting.
What do you think?
I would go downtown before I came to Cherry Creek.
Really?
I am not. Yeah, but that's just because I avoid shopping. The thing that turned me on to Nordstrom was that you didn't have to I do not enjoy shopping. I enjoy shopping. I enjoy problem solving for other people.
That's so funny. I love shopping.
But I hate shopping, and even now, it's not that nice today. But I was still like, we could do this outside.
Yeah.
So no, I enjoy the cosmopolitan feel of Union Station. or the surrounding area. Especially on a nice day, there's nothing better than just walking over to Millennium Park or Confluence Park. That whole little area. If you're visiting.
Yeah, that's true. Something Cherry Creek North really doesn't have.
No.
It's like a green space or like a more gathering spot. I mean, they do have that one spot where they've put bricks in, and the street will be closed off sometimes in the
Fillmore?
winter. Yeah, and that's beautiful. But I agree with you. There isn't like a green space spot to hang.
I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. There is no like park around. There's the bike path back here, but
I mean,
there's not a park.
There's a lot of funny business that goes on back there. I was going to bring up how when I worked at Foley's in the 90s, the third floor men's restroom was the spot for folks to cruise, so much to the point that they closed it for a little while because your people could not stop meeting up at the restroom.
Different times. There were also spots at Park Meadows that had like certain spaces, but that was always just rumor for me.
Oh yeah.
That scared the crap out of me, so I was like, stay away. I can't use that bathroom.
So before we go, I just wanted to see if you would have one fun memory of, not necessarily with me, but when we worked at the Gap, if there was like a moment or a funny situation with a customer or another employee. I'm trying to think. There's so many characters
There are a lot of characters. In the brief time that we worked together, I remember there is a memory for me. We were both working in the fitting rooms.
Oh, my favorite place.
Yes.
I like to hide back there.
I
called it the learning annex. I taught fake classes, community college classes out of the fitting rooms on how to fold shirts.
You know what I called Nordstrom when I had really hit my like moment of hiring manager for designer? My finishing school for wayward girls.
Oh. You're like, come here, get a career, learn how to iron a shirt. Maybe a man will marry you, even though you're 26, and that means you're old. Sorry, no. What was your memory? You and I are in the fitting room.
We're in the fitting room. I'm processing, which means I'm folding everyone's what they used to call dump.
Yeah.
That was the stuff that they didn't want to take, go backs. And prior to our being there, they used to just put it all on a rack, and you would pick and choose what went back. But we really got it processed more professionally.
Yes.
But you were with this lady, and she was having a really fun time buying jeans. I remember which
is a rarity, let's be honest.
She was a firefighter, had really curly hair, and I just thought, this is fun. This is so much fun. I don't feel like I'm working. Yes, I'm folding people's laundry behind the curtain, but it's fun to hear this. It was an education and service. You took her a bunch of stuff. I processed it. But that's when I really thought, this is fun. If this is what the job is like, I don't mind staying.
If LMFAO is playing,
oh my God, that was the other thing.
Rock.
The music was the best. Working retail.
That's why I love Christmas music so much. I wish people could really see the peek behind the curtain. Then you go in the stock room, and then Lau's back there fighting with somebody and complaining about Joe, who's at the register, who has a secret drawer full of candy that only some of us are allowed to eat out of.
Yeah.
She really ruled. She ruled that cash
store
wrap.
Politics were amazing.
It was brutal.
It was.
David Casados, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're the best. Thousands of people like David Casados working in Cherry Creek right now. So how will all of the big new development projects change the way Cherry Creek works for the workers? And is there anything we can do to make sure all the new housing density doesn't just lead to gridlock? Tomorrow, I'm taking those questions directly to the developers. One behind a role model of a project rising in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., and the one who's behind the biggest project promising to reshape Cherry Creek forever. Cherry Creek West.
There's been a lot of planning that the city's done, that the neighborhood has done to really build this area out in a way that provides great community for everyone. And I think one of the things that we can really do is bring the opportunity for this to truly be a 15-minute community. The idea is we really create that additional opportunity for more people to live here who work here, and more people who work here to live here.
Cherry Creek Week continues tomorrow on CityCast Denver. And if you can't wait for more, you can be like this listener and go see what's happening over there for yourself.
Hi, Bree. My name is Jasmine from the Sloan's Lake Highlands neighborhood. I heard your talk about how we get to Cherry Creek Mall. I haven't been there in a while, but my former method of getting there was long-distance running training. A friend and I, who run the Colfax Marathon together, started at West High School, and we would run all the way to Cherry Creek State Park and back. And when that Safeway was there, that was like our crown jewel, our oasis in the desert, because grocery stores have open bathrooms, and formerly, maybe not anymore, you didn't have to have a code. You could just go in there. One time, though, closer to May, closer to race day, we were doing a 20-mile run, and it was super hot, and we'd both run out of water, and sometimes we would run around the backside of the mall on the trails, which is beautiful, and that would probably still be my favorite way to get there. We ran around the front side so we could go into our Safeway and do our usual bathroom time, but we were so hot that we took like 2 steps into the Safeway. We went over to the deli, got a water cup, and like we're pouring water on our faces. Then we went over to where they have the wipes for the shopping carts and literally like wiped ourselves down because we were so disgusting. We went over to the stoop area and took napkins to like dab our faces. And that's when we looked up and saw the cameras, and there's like the TV screens, and it says like, smile, you're on camera. And we both looked up in this moment of horror and just saw ourselves being absolute savages in the middle of this Safeway, like 5 feet from the entrance. Like people were having to walk around us. But if that's what prevented heat stroke that day, then I'm okay with it. But yeah, really missed the Safeway, really missed the free parking, the easy getting in and out. But I would say my favorite way still would be on the trail. Thanks. Bye.
And here's what else Denverites are talking about. The mayor's race. We've still got a few weeks before the runoff between Kelly Brough and Mike Johnston heats back up, but the race is looking really tight. Axios Denver recently reported on a new poll showing that Johnston has the support of 38.4% of likely voters, while Brough claimed only 34.1%. There's still plenty of time before the ballots go out in mid-May, though, and we're hoping to speak to both candidates again soon. So if you have questions for them, send us an email, a text, or leave us a voicemail at 720-500-5418. Again, the Mayoral Madness hotline is open, so call us now at 720-500-5418. And finally, Denver-based Dominion Voting Systems settled its high-profile defamation case against Fox News yesterday for $787.5 million, according to the New York Times. This means Fox's anchors probably won't be making any on-air apologies for distributing misinformation around the 2020 election. But hopefully it will lead to fewer threats against Dominion's local staff. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell the GM of the mall, Jeremy Birkinshaw, about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Denver, by texting Denver to 66866. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye. Do I need to say anything at the top about I'm interviewing David in my car because the mall wouldn't let us in?